Shastras, and as you will experience today, he has a wonderful and unique way of presenting the Shastras, which is most relishable. So Nila Madhava Prabhu will be speaking in detail about text number 39 of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita today. So Nila Madhava Prabhu, kindly share with us the nectar of Bhagavad Gita. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu. It's a pleasure to be on this group. Before we say anything, I thought that the children were wonderful. If at all we can put the cameras on to see the children, they did so very well. Both the recitation and the English translation, and I'd like to really, give them a hand of applause. So very well done to the children. Thank you so very much. And it's quite a lengthy section. Of course, sorry, Vrindavan Prabhu, how much time do I have? Because
Prabhu, we're running a bit late. We would like to give you at least half an hour to speak on the verse. That's what we traditionally do. So you would have now till what's it? 8:50.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is quite a unique chapter, Prabhu's. And of course, when the children were reading the translation and when they came to the 39th verse, it really brought a little emotion in me because it's such a family orientated chapter. These verses are quite family orientated. You may think, what am I saying, family orientated? But here Arjuna is so reluctant to do anything. Why? Because he's about to fight his own family members. With the destruction of the dynasty, he mentions, with the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished. And thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion, involved in sinful activity. So how is that? How can that be possible? So it's such a intriguing way. It's an intriguing conversation. The chapter itself is Arjuna Vishadyog, observing the armies on the battlefield, and these Kshatriyas, because if you recollect, there are millions of Kshatriyas who have lined up. There are millions of soldiers who have lined up. And in total, there are actually 5.248 million soldiers. Of course, according to the military divisions, according to that, it's coming up to about 5.2 million. However, the Srimad Bhagavatam mentions to us that there are 640 million people, 640 million entities who would lose their bodies. Now, this is important because entities losing their bodies, not that they will die, because Arjuna has a conception here that, everyone will be killed. Yes, their bodies will be killed, but not they themselves. So that's where in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's mentioned that 640 million entities will come. The bodies of 640 million entities will come to an end. And so one may think, my God, that's like more than 10 times the population of the UK. It's much, much worse than the pandemic which we're suffering at present. Millions of entities will be killed. So how is that possible? But the figure why it's mentioned is such a large number. Why? Because it's not just the Kshatriyas, it's not just the human soldiers, the human warriors who will come to an end, but it's the animals as well, and it's all the infrastructure around Kurukshetra. Because in the verse here, 39, the 39th verse, um, the word family has been mentioned twice. So the whole battle, it's actually family members. And the living entities, even Mr. Patel, in his corner shop, he set up camp at Kurukshetra, because there's the Dhobi Walas, there's the newsagent Walas, there's the cooks, so many individuals who are serving all the Kshatriyas, because all the Kshatriyas, all the warriors, they need to buy food, they need meals, they need their laundry done within 18 days, because you would know that the 18 days of battle were there, 18 nights. At night, the Kshatriyas would come together and have meals together. So they may be during daytime, they're fighting against each other, but at nighttime, they're all good friends. They come together and have a meal together. So all these personalities will come to an end. Mr. Patel, in his newsagent shop, of course, nowadays not many newsagent shops are run by Patels, but in my time, you know, Lila Purushottam Prabhu, you would know, you know, 20, 30 years back, all the newsagents were Patel. So, so even you know, the people who would be selling things, the merchants, ended up there to make as much money as possible, because they knew if all the Kshatriyas, if all the warriors from around the whole planet are assembled in one area, there's a lot of money to be made. So therefore, everyone rushed there. So, but the main concern here, from, you know, actually the section here, there are only three sections within this chapter. The first section is from 1 to 27, and that's all about the introduction, the preparation of war. It's entitled Preparation of War. And then from 28 to 46, it can also be 26 to 46. During in that middle section, this is Arjuna's dilemma, because Arjuna is really confused. Of course, seemingly he's confused. He's not really confused, because Arjuna is a pure devotee of the Lord. Krishna is Narayan, and Arjuna is Nar Narayan. So they're very, very close. So how can Arjuna be bewildered? How can he be in a dilemma? He certainly can't be in a dilemma. So seemingly, he is pretending to be in a dilemma. So his main points were, you know, Arjuna's main concern is compassion, compassion to specifically the family members. When his chariot is taken, you know, the chariot, Krishna is the charioteer, and he takes Parthasarathi. He takes Arjuna to the middle, right in the middle of the two battlefield, the two armies in the middle of the battlefield. And if you can imagine the entire Kurukshetra, there are 40 miles of soldiers lined up with the Akshohini Parax divisions. Now, 40 miles across, that's like as big as London. Within our city, if you can imagine, the whole of London is a battlefield. It's a battlefield, and that's the size of Kurukshetra at that time. Even now, if you go to Kurukshetra, the entire soil is completely red. It's red. And Americans, you know, the American scientists carbon dated it. They were doing carbon dating because they found a lot of radioactivity within the soil. No one could figure out why that soil is so very red. But when they did carbon dating of the soil, they found that the radioactivity within the soil was almost 6,000 years dated. So unofficially, the Americans even concluded that at that time, aliens may have landed there. That's why there's so much radioactivity. But of course, according to our understanding, it's the Brahmastra weapons which had been evoked by the Kshatriyas, and hence you have the radioactivity. So the whole battlefield is so immense. It's spreading for 40 miles, and that's where the Kshatriyas, and within outside of that parameter are all the camps, all the shops, all the different personalities who are serving, who are providing the service, because 18 days is quite a long time for the battle. And every day there is some excitement. On the 10th day, Bhishma Dev came to an end. He began his time on the bed of arrows. So, a very interesting and intriguing time. And Arjuna is continuously worried. His main problem is that as soon as he sees Bhishma there on the opposite side, he sees the Kul Guru, Kripacharya, Dhanur Guru, Dronacharya. He sees all these personalities opposite him, and he's about to annihilate them. How is it possible? How can he do such a thing? It's impossible. It's hence the best thing to do is to put down the Gandiva. You see in the verses, he just puts down the Gandiva, his arrow, his bows and arrows, and he says to Krishna, I'm really sorry, but I can't do this. I'm in a dilemma. So compassion. Arjuna also thought he shall not get any enjoyment from fighting. And what is the good? What is the good of gaining a kingdom when you got to annihilate everyone? There'll be no one left. Because he knew that at the end of the day, out of 5.2, almost 5 or 5.3 billion Kshatriyas, only 11 survive. Can you imagine that only 11 individuals survive the whole battle? And Arjuna knew that. So why should I fight? Arjuna's thinking. Of course, eventually Krishna immediately, he convinces him. And just during that very small amount of time, Krishna encourages him and convinces him to ultimately fight. Who are the survivors? There are the 5 Pandavas, naturally. They continue. There's Krishna, number 6. There's Kripacharya, Yuyutsu, Satyaki, Ashwatthama, and Kritavarma. Ashwatthama is the son of Dronacharya. He survives. Another personality who's very, very powerful is Kritavarma. Kritavarma is one of the generals of the Yadu armies. He's very, very high up. He's literally the son-in-law, Krishna's very first son-in-law. Krishna's very first queen is Rukmini, and Rukmini has 10 sons and has one daughter, Jarumati. Jarumati is married to Kritavarma. So in any opportunity, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, would protect Kritavarma, even though Kritavarma had taken the side of the Kurus, because the entire Yadu army was given to the Kauravas. But unfortunately, Kritavarma was one of the individuals, together with Ashwatthama, who had naturally beheaded the 5 sons of the Pandavas. So such a heinous act was performed. However, because Kritavarma is so important to Lord Sri Krishna, he's Krishna's very first son-in-law, because Krishna, as we know, has 16,108 queens, and each and every queen gives Krishna 10 sons, and each and every queen gives Krishna one daughter. There is 10 sons and one daughter. So this is the very first son-in-law of Krishna. and that is Kritavarma. Of course, the Krishna has 10 grandsons. He then has 10 great grandsons. So you can see how the Yadu dynasty grew and grew and grew. Towards the end of the dynasty, when Krishna had to remove the entire dynasty of the Yadus, there were 32.8 million teachers teaching the children of the Yadus. So Prabhupada mentions that the Yadu dynasty numbered trillions of people. It became such a burden on the uh, on the earth itself. We had an old physics teacher, I remember, and he taught us O-level physics and A-level physics. And he had one time mentioned that if the population of China were to disappear all of a sudden, then the entire axis of the earth would move, and England would be into the South Pole. Of course, whether that's true, I don't think it is, but he would joke like that. So you can imagine the number of individuals who were in the Yadu dynasty. They numbered billions upon billions. Mm. So ultimately, then Krishna, towards the end of his pastimes, he had decided that okay, he has to remove this burden. Of course, the battlefield of Kurukshetra, so many millions had come to an end. The Kshatriyas had come to an end. There was the purpose, the main reason why this battle was fought, as we know very well, it is due to Draupadi Maharani. And Draupadi Maharani was insulted in the assembly hall where the rogue monarch Dushashan attempted to insult her, as a result of which this battle took place. But also within the Mahabharata, there is a very unique description of Draupadi witnessing from a vantage point. Draupadi Maharani is actually there and she's witnessing every day of battle. Every day of battle she is taking a look at. And when Abhimanyu is taken, and when Abhimanyu enters the Chaturvyuha, she's looking with great interest. And when Abhimanyu is slain by the Kauravas, she's devastated. Draupadi is completely devastated because Draupadi Maharani was so very much attached to Abhimanyu. And Abhimanyu was not her son, but he was raised virtually like he was raised by her. In his infancy, when he was a toddler, he would run not to his own mother. His own mother is Subhadra, but he would run to Draupadi, and Draupadi would lift him and put him on her lap. And everyone were very much thought that Abhimanyu is the son of Draupadi, because even the features, Abhimanyu's features were identical to Krishna's. And Draupadi Maharani's features are also identical to Krishna's. And hence, another name of Draupadi is Krishna. Why is she called Krishna? Because she's Sham. She's the most attractive person this planet has ever seen. Even the queens of Dwarka were envious of Draupadi because she was so close to Krishna and she looked like Krishna. So Subhadra looks completely different. And so does Arjuna. Arjuna is fair. And yet, Abhimanyu, their son, looked completely different. Unlike Subhadra, unlike Arjuna. So people immediately thought that Abhimanyu is indeed the son of Draupadi. And so when Abhimanyu is slain in this Chaturvyuha, she is so very repenting that why did I have to lose my control in the gambling match? I should have just accepted. She's thinking like that. when Bhishma Dev, when he enters the bed of arrows, she repents. Hmm? When Karna is killed by Arjuna, she's thinking this is the eldest of the Pandavas. Uh, Draupadi knew the true identity of Karna way before the battle took place. Draupadi was exceptionally well connected politically. Mhm. Everywhere where Kunti went, Draupadi would follow as an obedient daughter in law. And every year, Kunti would, on the birthday of uh, Karna, Kunti would visit the eldest son. And at one point, Draupadi was thinking, who is she visiting? Because Kunti Devi would come off the chariot and mention to Draupadi that on this occasion, you just stay in the chariot. You can't come with me. But Draupadi, after a few years like that, Draupadi was thinking, who is Kunti, my Sas, my mother in law? Who is she visiting on this day every year? And so she comes closer and she realizes that Kunti Devi, the mother, is actually visiting none other than Karan. And she overhears the conversations and immediately she understands that this is the eldest Kaurava. This is the son of none other than Kunti. Hmm? And how is it that he's not exposed as being the eldest Pandava, sorry, the eldest Pandava? Of course, he's the eldest Kaurava. He's older than any of them. He's older than the sons of Dhritarashtra. How is it that he's not exposed? She's thinking like that. And of course, she plays along, she continues because she cannot expose the true identity of Karna. And when she then witnesses the fall of Karna, because there was one time when in Indraprasth, Karna actually saved the life of Kunti Maharani. Kunti Devi is not, sorry, not Kunti, he saved the life of Draupadi Maharani. Draupadi is not a strong swimmer. And so she was pushed into the stream in Indraprasth. Hmm? She was pushed into there. And the only person who was there was Karna. And Karan himself uh, pulled out Draupadi from drowning from the stream. And so Draupadi was, she was devastated. That how is it that out of all the people, because she was expecting Arjuna to save her life, but how is it that from all the people, Karna has to save me? So she said that one day I will also save your life. She mentioned that. And towards the end of the exile, she gets this opportunity to save Karna's life. Because towards the end of the exile, when the Gandharvas, you may remember, this is a bit of Mahabharata, because this first chapter and these verses which we're covering are so befitting to the Mahabharata itself. As we know, the Bhagavad Gita is just one chapter of the entire Mahabharata. The Mahabharata has 110,000 verses, 700 verses is the Bhagavad Gita. So this whole setting the scene here, observing the armies on the battlefield is very much related to the Mahabharata. So within in the Mahabharata, it's mentioned that when Duryodhan is kidnapped is taken by the Gandharvas, and so Arjuna and Bhim, they both go and save the life of Duryodhan. They bring him back. So at that point in time, Karna is looking for the hermitage of the Pandavas. Where are the Pandavas in exile? Duryodhan himself has sent Karna to find out where the Pandavas are. And when he comes near the hermitage, Karna gets bitten by a snake. and the poison is contaminating his whole body. Even though such a powerful Kshatriya, he becomes unconscious. And so two tribal infants come running. They come running and they see that uh, this huge Kshatriya has fallen unconscious. So the uh, the, the two children, the two boys, go running to their mother. They have a foster mother, and this foster mother is none other than Draupadi Maharani, because when Draupadi went into exile, she adopted two children, uh, simply because she was in such separation of her own children and in such separation of Abhimanyu, the sixth son, as it were. So she had adopted these two tribal Kshatriyas, and to the extent that she was even nursing them. And due to the mother's milk, these two tribal youths became Kshatriyas. And so they both came running to Draupadi, and they said, Mother, mother, please come quickly. There is a Kshatriya who's been bitten by a serpent, and he's unconscious and he may die. Now, Draupadi had many, many talents. She was a profound singer. She was an acute, very, very highly politically qualified, very, very qualified. And she was politically very strong as Kunti. And she also had the science of extracting poison from a snake bite. She had that science through via mantra. So she immediately was taken by the two sons. And when she got to the point of seeing that the Kshatriya is none other than Karna, and so she immediately extracted the poison, and she saved the life of Karna. Otherwise, Karna would have perished. And before Karna regains consciousness, she thought, I cannot remain here because it's not the right etiquette. It's not the appropriate thing for me to remain here. So before he regained consciousness, she left. She runs off with the children, with the two boys. And of course, in due course, Karna regains consciousness. And Karna is thinking, who has saved my life? For Karna was so powerful that even a tarantula, a spider, tarantula could not affect him when the tarantula was biting his thigh, because when he was with Parshuram, the guru. And so when Karna realized, how would he have realized who had saved his life? And he realized it was Draupadi. Why? Because Draupadi's presence could be detected in a 2-mile radius. How? Her natural bodily aroma. Draupadi's natural bodily aroma is so powerful, far more powerful than Chanel 5. Hmm? So powerful that within a 2-mile radius, anyone can know that this is Draupadi Maharani is there. So such a powerful scene. And when you enter the scene of the Mahabharata itself is so very, very relishing, so very relishing. It's profound. So of course, Karna is saved, and Draupadi is very happy because the opportunity was given to her. Uh, she had been saved by Karna, and in turn, um, Karna had been saved by her. So, like the debt was settled. So when Draupadi Maharani is viewing this entire battle arrangement, and each day she's thinking, so many of the Kshatriyas are being annihilated, and she was observing. Of course, Sanjaya is back with Dhritarashtra because he's narrating the entire event, entire course of each day to Dhritarashtra. He had that vision because he was given that benediction by his spiritual master. But here, Draupadi is actually there, and she's witnessing the entire battlefield is being witnessed by her. So, of course, we can go on and on about the Mahabharata. We'll need a long, long time for it. But coming back to this particular verse, in the purport of this verse, Prabhupada is mentioning the elder members are responsible for such purifying processes in the family, beginning from birth to death. So here, Arjuna is thinking, if the elder members of the family are no longer present, are killed in this battlefield, what is the gain in that? So this entire, the verse 39 and following on all the way to 46, Arjuna is in such a dilemma, and he's indecisive. He needs to make a decision whether to fight or not, and ultimately, of course, he picks up the Gandhirva. But at this moment in time, he doesn't want to fight at all, and the Gandhirva, the bow, is left on the chariot, and he even steps off. He steps off the chariot, and Krishna is narrating now. The whole dialogue will be there. Of course, in the demigod version, there are 2 million verses of the Bhagavad Gita. The demigods have a far more, the entire Mahabharata. There are 2 million verses in the celestial realms. There are 110,000 verses in which we have access to of the Mahabharata, of this itihash, this historical account, but the demigod version is far more in length. So here, Arjuna is now very convinced. He's very convinced that there is no benefit at all of fighting. And Krishna, Krishna takes such a humble stance, in the sense that being the Sarathi, the charioteer, means that he is actually serving Arjuna. Now, Krishna himself has many charioteers. His principal charioteer, his name is Deruk. Deruk, his son, is the principal charioteer of Pradyumna, the son of Krishna. And Deruka's grandson is the principal charioteer of Anirudh, the grandson of Krishna. So even the charioteers propose, there's a parampara, there's a lineage. If Krishna's charioteer, Deruka, his son is the charioteer of Pradyumna. So like that, there is a lineage, family lineage. And here the Lord has decided to be the charioteer of Arjuna. Such a humble thing which he's doing. Why? Because of that attachment, of that family, of that relationship with Krishna. Immediately he's thinking, I must do something for Arjuna. And of course, ultimately, Krishna convinces him, and Arjuna continues, and he then becomes one of the principal warriors. So I've pretty much exceeded my time. Thank you so very much for listening. Of course, one can go on and on, because there's so much information here in these verses. When the children were reading the translation, each and every word was so very powerful and so very meaningful. Even the Sanskrit, the children are such experts. Each of the word, the pronunciation was perfect. And of course the translation of it, so we can have a deeper understanding. These verses are so very relishing. These days, Prabhu, seldom I pick up the Bhagavad Gita. I need to read the Bhagavad Gita far more. But every time we pick up the Bhagavad Gita, it is so very relishing. Thank you very much, Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu. I apologize if I've gone over time. So I'll stop here. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nila, Madhav, Prabhu, I think there'll be myself and many people in today's audience that will feel time went so quickly. We wish you could continue and give us more of the nectar. Are you able to hear me clearly?
You're breaking a little, but it's
all right. Let me
fine.
just change up. I'm gonna just bear with me 1 minute. I'll change my settings so I can speak on another mic. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah,
much
that's
better, Prabhuji.
better. Thank
All right, thank you very much. So Nila Madhava Prabhu, that's a wonderful session. I'm just looking at the chat session here. Just a few comments have come through before we go to
you.
questions. Wonderful session, Prabhuji. Was not aware of so many facts you presented so far. There's some Puja Mataji. Surabhi Mataji says, Hare Krishna Pranam. Absolutely wonderful session. Thank you. Bhagavati Mataji, amazing session. Thank you, Prabhuji. Namrata, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, same here. So many facts that I wasn't aware of either.
Thank
And
you.
yes, so many wonderful appreciations coming through Prabhu from the devotees on today's session. I would just like to ask from the attendees today, if you have any questions using the reactions button on your Zoom panel, can you please raise your hands and then we can direct those questions, or you can obviously unmute yourself and ask your question directly to Nila Madhava Prabhu. So please feel free. It doesn't necessarily have to be a question. If you want to unmute and share a reflection, that's something particular about what Nila Madhava Prabhu has said, which has resonated with you, which you feel you take away as a significant point, you can also feel free to share that. So please, we open up the session to anyone who would like to either ask a question or share a reflection. Jyoti Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Um, that was a really, really amazing session. Thank you so much, Nila Prabhu. I'm just a little bit confused about one thing. If you could clarify for me, because I never realized that Kunti Maharani knew from very much before that Karna was his son, well, her son, sorry. And obviously, if she was visiting him every year, then he does that mean he also knew that she was his mother? But then I can't figure out the connection, because he was very insulting and offensive to not just the Pandavas but also to Draupadi during the dice game. But then Karna was supposed to be a very honorable person. So I'm now struggling with that fact, because if he knew that, then how did he still? I can understand that he supported Duryodhan because he was under that obligation, but I would have thought then he would have kind of remained quiet and not committed those offenses. And that's the bit that I'm struggling with. If you could shed some light on it, please. Thank you.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's quite intriguing. But these are relationships of brothers. Karna immediately developed an attachment to Duryodhan. Just like Lord Balaram was so attached to Duryodhan, best student. Lord Balaram taught Duryodhan the mace. He's very expert, and Duryodhan had the ability to annihilate Bhim. These are family relations, and Karna certainly knew his identity from the very beginning. He knew that he is of a high aristocratic monarchy, and that was explained to him even when he was an infant by the charioteer Eratrath. The father was a charioteer, Eratrath, and he explained everything to him. And in due course, Karna ended up the spirit, the guru became Parshuram.
Yeah.
He was rejected by Dronacharya. But all along, all these incidents is occurring, where Karna was indeed very much aware of his lineage, and that Surya Narayan is ultimately his father. But the relationships are very important, because Karna, naturally, every Kshatriya on the planet became attracted to Draupadi Maharani, because she is when it comes to the creme de la creme of women, she is right at the top. So each and every Kshatriya would naturally want her as a spouse. And so when Karna was about to, take part in that contest, and she objected. So that was the very first instance where she really hurt him. She hurt him to such an extent that after marriage, Draupadi, together with two of her maidservants, generally when a girl gets married, she does a lot of the cooking initially because she has to be trained. So when she leaves and she enters the household, every day she was cooking for 105 Kshatriyas, the sons, the brothers. There are 105. And on top of that, there's Jayadrat, who's the only Jamai, the Jamai Raja, the only son-in-law of Dushala. Dushala is the only sister. Can you imagine what position Dushala is in? She, out of 105 boys, brothers, there's only one sister. So Draupadi was cooking, and she would also invite Karna to take lunch, but Karan wouldn't, because he just didn't want her cooking. And it's explained in the Mahabharata that when Karna he just remains in his chambers when she's cooking, at the end of the first day, she specifically prepares like a tiffin and takes it to Karna and presents the prasad, the bhog. And Karna says, look, I don't really want your cooking. So the relationship was very personal.
Yeah.
Just like if there's a large family, there are 5 sons, 5 brothers. There's always some disagreement, because the whole of the Mahabharata actually is all about what's going to happen in Kali Yuga, where families will break, where there'll be dissension between various groups. If there's a family, if there are brothers in a family who are together, then so much can be achieved. In Gujarati we say "Sampo joye," "Sampoy," so there's a lot of achievement. If the brothers are working separately, we can see even now where in a family that there's unity within the brothers, they thrive. Business wise, economically. So these are personal relationships which are very much there, and ultimately it's the will of providence, the position of Karna. Karna actually knew that he could be the emperor of the entire world, and even Duryodhan would bow down to him if his identity was revealed. Bhishma Dev knew the entire situation, because Bhishma Dev's intelligent, he had forces which were beyond the KGB, the CIA, the FBI, all these intelligent groups. Currently, Bhishma had connections each and every corner of the world. Like, for instance, when Satyavati approaches him, that look, you need to now produce an heir. And Bhishma immediately said, no, you have another son. And that's Vyasdev. Now, she was so shocked that this was a secret which was meant to be buried. And she was so shocked when Bhishma addressed the mother, Satyavati, that no, you have another son. Summon him. Why me? I'm a Nashtika Brahmachari. I've taken the vow. Devavrata. So, so these, I'm sorry to go on and on, but when it comes to Mahabharata, I get a little excited. But the family relationships are so very important there. And certainly, I hope that kind of clarifies a little bit.
Yes.
That's what we are missing from you now, the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Oh, I see. Thank you, Bhagavati.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Thank you for a wonderful lesson learned about
Thank you.
how we can take these lessons forward. The unique way you told it, it's been so engaging for me. And I felt I was living the story as you were telling it. And also about Drupadi's story. I've not heard some of those stories, so it was wonderful. And also to take forward these lessons in our own relationship and family relationship. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I don't see any other hands raised, so I take it that there are no further questions. And we'll probably close today's session here by just extending our gratitude to Nila Madhava Prabhu for coming in and gracing our chat session. I'm just hopeful, the devotees have found your presentation so engaging, informative, and inspiring that Prabhu, you will make more time in the future to come and share your knowledge and realizations with us. That'll be wonderful if you could do that. So on behalf of all of the members, Nila Madhava Prabhu, thank you so much, and all glories to your service. And we hope to see you again in our session soon. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Nila Madhav Prabhu, please come back
Hare
again.
Krishna, please come again,
Please come back
Prabhuji.
again.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Please
Krishna.
come back.
Hare Krishna.
Shri
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada
Thank
ki
you so much.
jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the
Prabhu.
wonderful class.
Hare
Please come back
Krishna.
again.
Haribol,
Hare
Haribol.
Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.